Hello my friends, Satnam, Natalie Adele checking in with you. Welcome to Satnam Society. In this video I'm going to talk about what is Kundalini Yoga. So if you haven't checked it out yet, check out my video on what is Kundalini, because Kundalini and Kundalini Yoga are two separate things. So I'll link to that below. But let's talk about what is Kundalini Yoga. So Kundalini Yoga has its lineage, has its roots in the Tantric Yoga tradition. And some texts say it dates back to like the 8th century, although it has been known that there have been cave paintings scattered throughout the world, actually capturing Kundalini poses and kriyas that date back 10,000 years. So needless to say, it is an ancient practice that started around the times of Qigong and Tai Chi and all these ancient healing arts. And so in Kundalini Yoga, we're working with the Kundalini energy, which again, check out my video. I'll link below on what is the Kundalini energy. But essentially, Kunda means coil, Lini means either line or nerve. So we're working with this coiled nerve that sits at the base of the spine, often referred to as a serpent or a snake, and it's dormant in most of us unless we intentionally activate it through Kundalini Yoga. So how the ancient technology of Kundalini Yoga works is it works through tension, pressure, stress, and friction to activate the Kundalini energy at the base of the spine. So again, this dormant light force, this dormant storehouse of prana or energy known as the Kundalini is activated through our Kundalini Yoga practice, through pressure, tension, stress, and friction. And so this is all accomplished through a Kundalini Kriya, which I'll leave a link below to another video where I talk about what is a Kundalini Kriya. But essentially through our practice, we're really luring and think of like a match, right? We're stoking that match at the base of the spine to ignite some activity to waken up this Kundalini energy that's maybe been dormant for years. And this energy starts to move up the spine. And so Kundalini Yoga is very different from other types of yoga. And for me, I've been teaching Kundalini for about a year now, but my background for a decade has been in Hatha, Vinyasa, restorative, yin, not Kundalini. And so how is it different from other styles of yoga? And this is what I generally say to new students if they're brand new. I'll say it's very different. There's not a flow like there is in a Vinyasa class. You know, typically in a Vinyasa class, we work through this arc of a sequenced class. Whereas Kundalini Kriyas are focused on start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. So when we start a repetitive posture. Maybe it's arms overhead, breath of fire. Maybe it's twisting and repeating a mantra. Repetitive movements for a very specific amount of time or a specific amount of set. Like maybe we're doing something left, right, and we do that 52 times. Everything in the practice is highly curated. Again, it's an ancient teaching. So know that it's very repetitive. We're not going to go through this nice graceful flow like we would in a Vinyasa class. Maybe you'll do a set for 1 minute, 2 minutes, 33 minutes, and then there's rest after. This meditative, absorbative, sort of sitting in the ocean of your experience rest, and then we move on to the next part of the Kriya. And at the end of class, we'll have Shavasana, which is very important in the Kundalini practice because in Kundalini Yoga, we're working very much with the subtle bodies, the energy body, your bliss body, your auric fields, your pranic body, the nervous system, the glands, right? So Shavasana is so important in Kundalini as a time and a space, one, to really dive into this meditative space that is so much easier to do after moving some stagnant energies throughout the body, and two, to allow the energies of your practice to integrate Integration, grounding, space in between is very important in our Kundalini practice. Okay, so the way I like to describe Kundalini Yoga is think of it like this. Think of a computer. So when we're doing Hatha, Vinyasa, Yoga, Ashtanga, we're working on the hardware. We're working on the tangible. Now, of course, we're working on the intangible as well, but the main focus is our physical body, our joints, right? The hardware, your actual computer, your printer, okay? In Kundalini Yoga, we're working on your software. We're working on the Wi-Fi connection. We're working on the virus malware systems. We're working on the applications on your computer so that it can all operate smoothly. So we can't see the software in our laptop, but it certainly is vital for optimal functioning. Think about your computer when it's due for an upgrade. Right, so Kundalini is like the upgraded, the human upgraded system, right? The human operating system instead of the iOS, right? So we're working on a very subtle part of our body. So it's very repetitive. We're working on our subtle bodies. We're working on the software. We're working through tension, pressure, stress, and friction to activate the Kundalini life force. Here's the thing about Kundalini. It's meant to trigger you. It's meant to provoke you. It's meant to stir shit up. Because remember, Kundalini lies at the bottom of our spine where a lot of, by default and gravity, the swampy, stagnant, stale, kind of murky energy sits. And so we gotta activate it to lift that light up and let it circulate so you can be radiant. And so again, remember, it's very repetitive. So maybe you're doing this with the arms overhead and ego eradicator for like 5 minutes. And your arms are killing you and your belly's tired from doing breath of fire and you're starting to feel a little overwhelmed. That's the point. Our practice of Kundalini is meant to provoke us. It's like this little nudge. Hey, the inner critic comes online. The self-dialogue starts to work. Maybe anger gets stirred up from the liver chi, right? Maybe frustration at the teacher comes up. Maybe not so kind self-dialogue comes up, right? All of these things are welcomes and good because your Kundalini Yoga practice is a mirror for you. And when we start to practice, what we're doing is shining this mirror of self-reflection to actually take a look at ourselves. What is that inner dialogue when I'm frustrated? How do I handle anger when it's rolling through my body? You know? So Kundalini serves as this mirror that we shine in our practices to become eventually a clear mirror so that we can have deeper self-realization and awareness. Kundalini Yoga is also known as the yoga of awareness. And so beyond physical yoga, which is also very important, I still practice that every day. My Kundalini Yoga practice is where I look within. It's where I meet my inner critic. It's where I dial up my grit. It's where I bring forth my rage, my anger, my frustration, my jealousy, all the excuses. And I look at them and I sit with them and I move through them as I move through the practice. And so for those of you who've only tried Kundalini maybe once or twice and maybe have been turned off by it, I highly encourage you to keep on exploring until you find a teacher that you know, love, and trust and that works for you. Because maybe you took a class that was an hour and a half and maybe a 5-minute practice would serve you better with your lifestyle at this moment. And so, why practice Kundalini Yoga? When we start to activate this Kundalini light force in the base of our spine, it brings with it radiance, vitality. It increases your auric field. It increases your vibration. It increases your frequency. And therefore, it increases your capacity to hold the higher frequency experiences in life. The lower frequency experiences in life are guilt and shame, right? Depression. They're not bad. They're just lower frequencies. And so when we prime our nervous system with Kundalini Yoga, we start to expand our bandwidth and our capacity to hold the higher frequencies: love, joy, bliss, wonder, confidence, self-compassion, these higher frequencies, right? So what you're doing is, if we break it down to energy and electricity, you're increasing your wattage of the outlet so you can put in a higher wattage device so that the fuses don't blow. So we practice Kundalini so that we can be more joyful and we can hold more joy, because it takes bandwidth to hold joy. Again, going back to the computer analogy, it's the same reason why your Mac prompts you to do an update every couple months, so it can function better. The last thing I'll say about Kundalini and why I love it so much, it's typically called the householder's yoga, which is sort of an old school term, but that's what it's known as, the yoga of awareness and the householder's yoga. Because back in the day, traditionally, yogis were maybe renunciates, they practiced for 4 hours every morning. Kundalini was designed so that it's quick, potent, efficient, effective. It is your fast track to radiance, your fast track to brilliance and to royalty and magnetism. And so it's called the householder's yoga because it's quick. I mean, of course you can do longer kriyas, but you can get very effective results in just a few minutes as part of your daily practice. So it's quick. It's accessible in the sense that the barriers to entry are a little bit lower. You don't need all this yoga gear. You don't even need yoga clothes. I do Kundalini in jean shorts sometimes. You don't really even need a yoga mat. And you don't need to be flexible. Because again, remember, we're not working on the hardware. We're working on the software. So any age can do this, and it can be done from a chair. It can be done from a wheelchair. It can be done from your bed laying down. It can be done from your desk. It's totally accessible, which is why I just love it so much. So that's my kind of brief synopsis on what is Kundalini Yoga. Be sure to subscribe to this channel to receive weekly content of kriyas and pranayama and more videos like this. And I really want to be a person in your community that you start to grow trust for as a Kundalini resource. Feel free to comment below with any questions you may have, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.